Good afternoon, and welcome to the IEFC's Leadership Learning Symposium. Today, we've got a great presentation for you by Deccan International. And a couple housekeeping things before we get started. The audio is being broadcast using VoIP technology through your computer speakers or headset. Please make sure that your speakers are in headset or turned up and the volume is turned up. Audience microphones have been muted for this webinar. If you experience any technical difficulties, please contact IFC support at webinars@ifc.org or via the chat function in the top right-hand corner. Chat, QAs, and handouts are available. You can see in the top right-hand corner there. If you want to chat or if you have a question, use the Q&A button to ask your question specifically, and one of our moderators will answer that question for you. We'll remind you about upcoming events. December 4th through the 6th is Technology Summit International in Oklahoma City. Then in 25, we had the Wildland Urban Interface Conference, Fire Rescue Med, and Community Risk Reduction Leadership Conference. Be sure and check those out. We want to thank our sponsor today, Deccan International, for all the partnerships that they have with the IFC and all the great work they do for the fire service. Our panel today is going to be with Chief Eddie Buchanan, Jack Breedvale, and we also have Jamie Tim, who is the Adam Product Manager. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Jack and take it away.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Jeff, for allowing us to present today. As Jeff said, my name is Jack Breedvale. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Deccan International. I've been with the company 6 years or so now. I've been in industry and technology for my entire career, working on 911 systems, data fusion systems, data analytics systems for quite some time. I also was a former analyst, and I'm very excited about the product that Eddie's going to show you guys today, because as a former analyst, I just remember the days of getting questions from leadership and wondering, how am I going to answer these questions? Where do I go? How long is this going to take? So we have an application I think you're really going to enjoy watching. And now I'd like to turn it over to Jamie really quick to just kind of introduce yourself. Jamie Tim, the Adam Product Manager.
Hello, my name is Jamie Tim. I am the Adam Product Manager at Deccan. I have been with the company for, I believe, almost 14 years now, and we are so excited to be showing this product to you guys. We have a huge team of developers and analysts working on this application, so very excited to help show it to you guys today.
Eddie?
Yep, man. Hey, everybody. My name is Eddie Buchanan. I am the Business Development Manager at Deccan International. I'm also a retired Assistant Chief with Hanover Fire and EMS in Richmond, Virginia. And I've been around the fire service for a number of years, 40 years or so. Was a past president of the International Society of Fire Service Instructors. Been very active with the IFC. Still on the VCOS Planning Committee, doing lots of work with that. We just had our conference last week. So excited to be here and show you what Deccan can do to help you with enhancing confidence and credibility in decision making.
Great. Thanks, guys. Just a little bit about Deccan before we begin. We've been in business now, it's 30 years, which is hard to believe. It's been a long time. One of our first customers was Washington, D.C., and we stepped into a data analytics question they had for us, and we started on our journey to build applications for the community. We have a strong presence in the United States. We have customers all over the U.S., Canada, and Australia. And we've been doing this quite some time. Now, what's going to happen today is Eddie's going to kind of give you an overview of the application, step you through different features and functions of the application. One thing to keep in mind about the application is behind the application are analysts, GIS staff, and folks that have degrees in operations research. These are data, high-powered data analytics folks that do research in the field of things like, working with companies like Amazon, trying to figure out how they're logistically going to deliver 30 million packages every day, day in, day out, 365 days a year. Those are the same kind of people that work for us, and they develop algorithms to help us determine the response metrics and data analytics that drive our applications. So with that, I'd like to kind of turn it over to Eddie and let Eddie step you through the application. If you do have questions, please go ahead and throw them in the QA section. We'll either do them during the session if they're relevant to what we're talking about, or we'll hit them at the end, but we will definitely answer all of your questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Jack. Yeah, we titled this presentation, Enhancing Confidence and Credibility in Your Decision-Making. And really what this comes down to is the operations research that Jack talked about, and getting into really decision support. How can we offer the fire service some real meaningful support in the decisions that you as a fire chief in particularly have to make to where you have to go stand in front of council or stand in front of your mayor or county manager and actually deliver the goods, to lead the community in the right direction. And I think this slide does a good job of kind of capturing that. It's not just technology. The application that Adam, you've heard us reference, we'll show you here in a little bit, is a tool, right? It's a tool that we use to get you to the decision support that we're after. But it's really about the people. It's the data scientists, the PhDs we have on staff. It's our ability to leverage operations, research, science, some of the most advanced technology that's going around in data analytics, to package that into a software application that is a tool that we use to get you the answers and the support you need to make the right decisions. So that's really what this is about. It's about the people, the science, the technology, all wrapped together to really get you someplace where we can be supportive and helpful to you. And we're going to talk mostly today about Adam, but I do want to mention, that there's other applications. Probably one of our most well-known applications is LiveBum. It ties into CAD in real time and optimizes resources second by second. I mean, it's a real-time deployment analysis to get you the absolute best possible response scenario that you can get. It's an incredible tool. If you have more than a handful of fire stations, you probably ought to really look at that. And another one I'll mention just real quick because it seems to be popular these days is Dispatch Failsafe, which is a newer application that is a result of hacking, where dispatch centers can't get into their CAD or don't have access to their CAD and have to do something. Or with the CAD might even be down for maintenance, for any regular purpose. So that's just a kind of a backup doomsday sort of dispatch system that you can also use from an emergency management perspective. If you have IMTs, out forward on a forward position someplace, it could also be used as a tool for that. But the main focus today is to talk about ADAM. So ADAM stands for Apparatus Deployment Analysis Module. And we've done a couple of things with it. It's been around for a long time, but recently it has gone to the cloud. So the advances in technology have caused ADAM from going to be an on-prem application up to a cloud-based application. So that's the first real big step. And then one of the things that we did was we kind of broke it out. ADAM kind of has two parts. It has a historical analysis component, and then it has a predictive component, a simulator. So one of the things that's been kind of challenging over the last years has been how to get this technology and these analytics to fire departments of every size, right? Most of our clients have been large metropolitan, metro chief level departments. So we were trying to figure out, man, every fire department needs to have access to some of this stuff. So because we went to the cloud, we were able to break kind of ADAM into two parts, the analyst part and the simulator part. The historical analysis, we can actually provide that separately, and it's affordable to anybody. I mean, any fire department should be able to swing that. And then we have the predictive part, which is simulator, which is a very powerful predictive analytics tool. Its discrete event simulations engine is unbelievable. I mean, it really can do a lot of interesting things. It will answer questions like, where should the next fire station go? What happens if our workload changes? What happens if they put a new development in here and we're going to see our call volume increase? You want to be able to articulate the impact that's going to have on your fire department in a very tangible way and get that out in front of the budget process, right? So that you can have some predictive analytics to give you something tangible, science-based, that this is the impact that's going to be on our community in 3 to 5 years. That way you have time to get in front of it with the budget. So that's really one of the key parts of that, one of the key things we're trying to be able to do. So analysts, ADAM now cloud-based, you've got analyst, and you also have the simulator part. And it's an incredibly powerful application. And rather than have a bunch of slides, I always figure the best thing to do is just jump out and show you, right? And the first thing I want to show you real quick is this is an example of what we mean by decision support. This is just a sample of what some of the outputs you might see from ADAM would look like. This is where we had a community that had 5 years of information from their planning department. The planning department had provided them with, these are all the things we have in the pipeline coming down in 5 years. So you can take that, and if you have proposed street networks, we can analyze call volume, or we can predict the occupancy of a particular type. And, what's that going to do to the community? What kind of call is that going to generate? What kind of call volume? We were able to take that and put that into the future so that the fire department could actually see what those impacts would be on their current response capabilities. So, and the goal is to have resources in the pipeline to go with that development so that you can meet the need when it gets there. So this is, I mean, it's very simple. It comes out looking very easy to read. The visualization is great. But looking at their current situation status, in this case, they were looking at ALS calls on scene with a 6-minute time target, and the first medic dispatched on scene for ALS calls with an 8-minute time target. And when you look at what would actually happen, if they don't do anything, if they were just to keep operating with the resources they currently have today and not address that growth, it's going to have a significantly negative impact on their response capabilities. We're talking about adding 48 seconds to the average response time. We're talking about a drop in compliance of 18%, right? And then if you put that on a map and you actually look at what that looks like, this is where they are today, which they already have some challenges in places where they could improve. But when you start to deteriorate or add that work volume, it's going to really have a significant impact. So this is you could literally take this right to the city council or to the mayor and go, look, this is what's going to happen. We need to take some steps to get the funding in place before these developments occur so that we can keep pace and we're not, behind the 8 ball when the time comes. So that's an example, right? This is what we're trying to get to with this application. Now hop over to the actual, we kind of call this a control panel. This is where you're going to see the differences in historic versus predictive scenarios or simulated scenarios. So here on the right, we've got historical performance scenarios, and here on the left, we've got the simulated stuff. So I'll jump into a historical performance scenario so you can see what we're talking about. And when it opens up, the interface is really intuitive. It's one of the more intuitive applications I've worked with in a long time. We're looking now at the dashboard site, right? It's going to always tell us what we're looking at up here on the left. It gives us a list of, this is what we have, 5,760 incidents that we see right now, any response plans that might be in place, how many stations, units, even down to the hospitals that might be in place here. And we've got a dashboard, a selection of dashboards that we can choose from. And it's incredibly easy to dashboard with this application. And we can make as many as we want. Like you can see, I've got some examples in here. I've got a department website dashboard that you might use on your, on your .com or .org, .gov website. I've got one for a station. I've got some for some battalions, some shifts, the ops chief. And I can even be so specific as the city manager might have their own specific dashboard, or the fire chief might have their own specific dashboard, or even things like mobile integrated health, where there are certain things I'm trying to work on. And if I can capture that data, then we have the ability to work with that and dashboard that as well. So when you look at these dashboards, they're very easy to work with. Just plug and play. I can drag and drop widgets as I want them to be, move things around, easy to do. Very easy to add widgets as we go. And I'll show you here in a minute on another tab how you can there are multiple ways to add widgets to dashboards. And then the interesting part with this, to create a dashboard, it's as simple as just going down here, add new dashboard, give it a name, and start adding some widgets. That's all there is to it. Now over here to share a dashboard, I can set up a web link, right? So if I open a web link, and you'll notice I have the ability to share it with anyone with the link, which means that it's public. I can put that on the website, or I can share it with only specific people. So in that case, maybe I just want to have the city manager to have their own specific dashboard. I can create that based on what I want them to be able to see. I can share that just with them. You can go over there and make that the homepage on their browser. And every time they open the internet, boom, there's your dashboard. Right. So it's really slick and easy to be able to share it with groups, people, whatever, however you want to do that. So dashboarding is it's a fundamental part of the application. It's kind of baked in because it's really easy to use. And I mean, just the ability to share information is just really off the chart with this application. Anything you can kind of think of, you could do. So now I'm going to jump down to the workspace tab. And when you open the workspace, it's going to be there'll be a map. It's an interactive map that you can work with. And the scorecard down here tells you what you're looking at. So I'm looking at, in this case, I happen to default right to receipt, the first dispatch. That was the first metric in the list. It's going to tell me how many incidents I'm looking at, what the average is, the compliance, and what the 90th percentile is for that particular criteria. And the map is interactive, right? So I can zoom in on it. I can interact with this map, start to see different metrics and such. If I want to change the metric, let's say if I want to look at, I want to see where the incident volume is in my community. Well, it will do that. I can zoom in and look at a particular area. One of my favorite places here. I'm guessing this is like an assisted living facility or something right here. But when I click on that, I can see that they've had 16 incidents at that place in the time frame that we're looking at. And I can look at that and see what each incident is. And I can see the specific information for that incident. And what information is shown is based on how you want to configure it, right? So it could be, we're very careful to avoid any kind of HIPAA information or anything such as that. But I can see what units responded. I can see, what the incident type was, those types of things. So it's really easy to just kind of understand what's going on in your community. If I wanted to see where my mobile integrated health initiatives, if I wanted to look at a particular metric, I can see where those are occurring. I can see how often, I can see who's doing the work, those types of things. So it's a really easy way to move around on the map very quickly. I'll switch over to, let's see, first dispatch, first engine total response time. We'll take a look at that. Give the internet a second to catch up to it. And now I can see, looking across the whole response area, where are we getting where we're good, where are the places we might be a little slow getting there, and the map is just going to always reflect that. So that's kind of how the map works. The map actually has the ability, I can go in and I can draw specific polygons. I can select a certain response area, and I should mention all of these response areas are based on your local community. So if you use perfect squares or you use little hexagon-y things or whatever it is, whatever shape you're used to, we can import that and easily make that work for you. And it can also, you'll see in a minute, we can take multiple geographic layers into account. So things like election districts, where your elected officials districts are, if you want to look specifically at that, that's also something that we can do. But wait, there's more. If I pop out my Discover tab, now I get a bunch of widgets and a lot of options to look at, right? So if looking at this, I can go select any criteria, and this criteria is based on what you want locally. There's some departments that are looking specifically at like 1710 type metrics. Some look at 1720. Some use a hodgepodge of things. In this demo that we're using, it was probably, I suspect it was probably a combination fire department, maybe just some cross staffing. All those things we can take into account. But that's where you select whatever metric that you want to see. So if I want to look at turnout time, for example, it's going to give me a representation of that particular data metric so that I can see exactly what I'm looking at. Now, here's the interesting thing. Whenever you see a widget and you see these little dots, notice that it's on the map. It's over here on this widget. Any place you find your little ellipse button there, I can pin that to a dashboard. So anything you can think of, you can pretty much pin to a dashboard. It makes it really slick. And it's all based on which filters that you've applied at the time, right? So I have targets. We could be talking about suburban, urban, rural, or some combination of that type of geospatial designation. That's one way to go. You could have multiple hazard classes. We could list hazard classes there if you wanted. We can edit time targets pretty quickly. If I wanted to say, what would it look like? How would our responses have been if we had a 5-minute time target instead of a 6? So you have the ability to do some really kind of quick, basic analysis there on that. And then I have the ability to open filters and apply that to the metric. So maybe I want to see something specifically by a first due. Maybe I want to see it by an incident type group, which might be a call type. I just want to see the structure fire or the vehicle fires that happened in Station 49's first due on a specified period of time. I can do all that. I can just apply those filters and hit the button, and there you'll have it. And what you can do then is create dashboards based on that scenario, right? So anytime that scenario is run, you have the ability to refreshes all the dashboards and all your data stays up to date and current. And we default to this. We have a time series widget that pops up automatically. We have one by first due, or I could change it to a class, urban, suburban, rural, or I can change it to an incident type group if I want to. And then I can also use whatever visualization I feel is appropriate. So if I'd rather see that particular metric as a gauge, I can make it a gauge, or I can, however you want to see it. There's lots of ways to, depending on the story you're trying to get across, you might be able to select those widgets. So if I select a gauge and I pin it to a dashboard, there she'll stay. It will always update. So the historical side of this is really, really amazing, really a powerful thing. I can also pop out these things if I want to see them full screen. Something I can also do too. So on the historical side of things, it's incredible what you could do to be able to find out anything that has happened. This is all on the historical side of the application at its baseline.
Yeah, Eddie, it's as someone who used to run data analytics, I was actually showing this to a customer the other day, and the comment back to me was, "Hey, man, this is great because I get my weekends back." They had to write the Monday morning reports and have the same kind of formats every Monday, distribution, emailing, sending out different types of data bits to different people that need them. This you can create, as you can see, kind of point and click. Everything's there for you. All the response metrics that you want to measure, we'll work with you on to define those. And then it's a matter of just pointing and clicking and creating your widgets, attaching your widgets to the respective dashboard, sharing that dashboard out, scheduling those to run. And then voila, you have essentially an automated reporting tool, and you can be off to other higher duty status reports that you may need to write. So this is a very easy to use, quick and fast way to get data analytics done and distributed.
And you could still, one of the things to think about in the future, I think dashboarding will become more of the prominent tool that people use for sharing information, but we can still do it the old school way too. So if I wanted to see, say, an incident count report, and I wanted it to be delivered in an Excel report, that I can do. I can just simply, here you go. There's your Excel report. I like the Excel stuff because you can copy and paste right out of it and put it in your document or whatever you want to do there. And there are multiple types of reports. These are kind of based on what you might want to see and what you're doing. Like if I need a UHU report, all right, we can do that. And we've done custom reports for, fire departments, just depending on what it is that they need and what needs to be done, so it's fairly robust in that aspect of being able to generate just about anything you could think of. So I think before I go to the predictive side of the house, I'm going to show you the background of what actually goes on behind the scenes. And like Jack mentioned, the analyst, if you have an analyst in your department, a lot of your time, particularly if you're a one-person shop, which a lot of folks are, you're spending most of your time crunching data, right? Like you're cleaning data, importing data, running it through all the things and doing all that, but to get it to a place where you can do something. And that's where this is kind of awesome because it gives you the ability to provide some automation to that. So now you can be more head up, looking forward as to what you're trying to do with your data, as opposed to just always crunching it and cleaning it. So here we're looking behind the scenes. It's kind of behind the curtain of the application. And you can see that we have the ability to work with multiple response zones, street layers. If you've got some proposed street layer, we can import a street layer. Stations, same thing, hospitals, and then cosmetics or things like hydrants and whatever else you may have, whatever's available to you in your GIS community out there. We have the ability to incorporate that into the application. So that's pretty awesome. And my propeller spins a little bit when I get on this tab because I'm a little beanie on top because it's incredible what's possible here. Here we see we're looking at incident type groups, and I can just quickly see what the incident count is on a particular call type just at a glance. I mean, this is almost a visualization in itself when it's really more of a utility tab. But I can see what incident type groups exist. I can see unit types and capabilities. So if I was going to add a unit, let's say I'm going to start some sort of community paramedicine initiative or something in the community risk reduction area, rather than having to rebuild an application, we can just very simply incorporate that into the mix for you. So I can go to just simply add a unit type, can give it a name, give it a symbol, description, and then we can get into looking at what capabilities it should have, what staffing should it have, what can it do, so that we know how it behaves out in the simulated world, the simulation of your department. Super easy to use. Same thing for response criteria. You can adjust time targets, configurations, set new shifts. All that is very easy for you to just create as you need to as you go through here. And then there's also data cleaning. So this is where you build some automation. You can set thresholds for when, if it sees that there's new data, unknown data outside of a particular parameter, then it's going to flag you and go, wait, we're not going to import this data because something has drastically changed. Something is probably wrong. And so it will give you that alert. You can set that threshold. You can look at what some of the common outlier methodology might be, like how you want to set that up. And you're going to always have some sort of outliers that you have to deal with, whether it be some kind of suspicious dispatch time or something the dispatcher didn't close the call, or something like that along those lines.
And to Eddie's point, this will save a ton of time. First, typically an analyst will get a question and someone will say, hey, I have this question, and can you go answer it for me? And as you collect your data, once you have your data and your data set and you feel like, okay, relatively comfortable with it, there's always going to be data outliers that you have to mitigate. Someone who's dispatched that never arrives on scene, next thing you know, they just go back in service and they have a 6-hour dispatch time. It's like, okay, well, that's not correct. So something's off in the data there because for whatever reason, the data for that specific call and that specific unit is not accurate enough to be realistic. So this is where, as opposed to someone sifting through thousands and thousands of lines of Excel files or whatever it may be, here's where you can kind of go in and set thresholds, make sure your data set's nice and clean, and is the target data set that you want to use. It really just saves a lot of time in this first step of answering a question for somebody of where do I get my data? And then how do I ensure my data is accurate, usable, and appropriate for the questions I'm trying to answer. So this is what Eddie's talking about with this builder tool.
And then, so the way this would work, let's say I want to set up a monthly scenario that's going to run for the city manager, and it's going to be just for that person, and I can come in here and create a new there we go. A new data pool is what I call it, but it's basically, we call it a scenario in the application. I'm going to go grab a set of data. I can grab it once and use it for a particular purpose, or I can grab it. That's the difference over here with a live scenario. A live scenario means that it's going to run I've kind of likened it to a recurring meeting in Outlook, right? So I'm going to set it like on this date, at this time, on the first Monday of every month, I want you to go get this particular set of data. I want you to pull it in. I want you to run it through the cleaning scenario. So we get all our automation done on that data. Whatever widgets or anything that I've assigned to any reports or widgets that I've assigned to that particular set of data, refresh that data and update the dashboards and send a notification.
Yeah. So your weekly reports, your monthly reports, your bi-monthly reports, your biannual reports, you can schedule them, set them, and forget it. And it'll just run and distribute the way you've actually configured to distribute, which will say, again, in addition to the powerful analytics, it's also saving a ton of time because you don't have to manually schedule, run, and distribute data reports anymore. They're created here, scheduled here. And again, this is a lot that kind of Eddie's going through. There's a lot of features and functions. We are always here to help you through this. And if you need to say, hey, I'm not quite sure how to do this, all you have to do is just pick up the phone, call us. We'll help you create it, or we can create it for you, whatever works best for your agency.
Yeah, everybody's assigned a project manager, we call it. It's basically an analyst. So you get a subject matter expert in data assigned to your department. And some of those, some of our clients are very high speed. They're very technically competent with this stuff, and they can run their own analysis just fine. And we have some that just aren't familiar with those techniques, and they almost don't open the application. We take care of it for them. So it's the full service of whatever's required to make sure that the fire department is successful. That's the way that works. Something also interesting with this is the ability to run the user management tools in this are really amazing, that you can set users up to have different functionalities, right? Normally it's just the data team that's in this tool. That's typically what happens. But we also know that we're trying to educate firefighters on how to how data works, why is data important. And if you wait until you're either assigned to admin or you're promoted up high enough in ranks to where it becomes a thing, it's good that you could start to maybe have lieutenants and captains, battalion chiefs involved in the data world. Then maybe you just limit their ability in this application to just maybe see dashboards. You could be very specific. Or if you've got somebody who's talented, I know in my old department, I had a couple of whiz kids out there in the field that we would, you could lean on them and give them some extra capabilities to give you a hand as well. So that's the back end, just a quick look across the back end of the application of what you can do, just even with historical data, something as simple as the analyst thing. So we'll switch gears now. Let's go look into the crystal ball. So I'm going to switch out. Now I was over here on the historical performance scenarios. Now I'm going to go over here to the simulation side, and we're going to look at things a little bit differently. In this case, dashboards in the simulator are going to operate based on whatever the scenario is that you put in there. It's not going to look globally across the whole thing. It's just looking at what that specific scenario is. So to really get a feel for this, I'll go into the workspace. There's a new tab over here. It's called Experiment, right? So when I pop out the Experiment tab, it's going to let me do some fairly interesting things, right? So I can go in and let's say, like I see that I've got some areas in the community here that maybe my response times could be a little bit better. Maybe I want to consider a couple things I could do. I could add a fire station, or maybe I could add a unit. Maybe I could change a unit schedule. Maybe I don't need a 24/7 unit. Maybe I just need a peak time unit. Lots of ways to try to figure this out based on the resources that you have or that you are trying to get through the budget process. You can actually simulate that. So I can go in and, if I want to add a station, I can just simply say, I'm going to add a new station, and it's going to ask me to either select the location that I have in mind. So if you have a property that you can identify, that's a good place to start. You can actually put that location in, or I can click anywhere on the map and just, randomly go click someplace, and we'll figure out where we can find property later. That's another way to do it. And then once I've added that station, like there's a station we've dropped out here in the middle of the yellow zone out here, and then I could go add some units, right? So am I going to either move units to that, or am I going to have funding to create brand new units? So that means buy new apparatus, buy new bunk beds, buy new kitchen table, the whole bit. So if I can look at that either way, or I can come through and I'll go over here and modify units. So now I can just add a unit. So I can go in, I can add a new unit, or I can reopen a unit. And I hate to speak it out loud, but you can also close a unit, right? A closer station, right? So, like what we saw back during the pandemic, when funding got really weird, there was a lot of money, but somehow we didn't seem to have any, right? It was kind of funny how that worked. Money flying everywhere, but none of it that we can use for anything. So if they come to you and say that we need you to close the fire station, then you can actually come in here and simulate what that fire station closure will look like. And then you can show it to the elected officials to go, here's what's going to happen to your community, your constituency when we close that fire station. And we can see with great certainty what those response times will look like. And maybe you want to look somewhere else, right? Maybe you want to go find someplace else to maybe cut some funding if you have to. So you can really make that visualization powerful, particularly when you can show like who that extended response time is going to happen to. If it was already an underserved community, and now you're going to make the ambulance travel time even longer, maybe there's a better way to solve this problem, right? So these are all powerful arguments that you can make. So closing, reopening, adding a new unit, these are all scenarios that you can run and see what the impact would be.
A use case we had, Eddie, a real example use case was we had a customer of ours that had 3 plots of land that the city had owned and purchased, and they wanted to put a new station in one of those plots of land. They didn't know which one. So they actually used this application to optimize based on three different locations to say which location is the most optimal location for this new station. Essentially, what's our response time going to be, and what's the best place to put this new station, these apparatus. So they ran 3 different scenarios, came up with the data analytics, and then they were able to make an informed decision on what they thought was the best place for that station for them. Obviously, not all land is open land for just putting a new station. In this case, they did have 3 plots. We ran analysis for them and with them, and they were able to make an informed decision on which plot they thought was the best location by running 3 different scenarios.
Right. And so like you mentioned the optimizer. So the way this tool works in the simulation model is when you kind of have an idea what you want to do, you can go test that idea. So I think I'm going to move this unit to that station. What would happen if I move truck 1 from this firehouse to that firehouse? How would that impact stuff? I can do it here and see what would happen. If I don't know, if I have no idea what to do, or I have at least can narrow it down, that's where I would use the optimizer. And like the optimizer does things like you can see what it is. It's like a wizard. So it's going to walk you through a bunch of questions, which just for the sake of time, we won't do today, but it will walk you through a bunch of questions that I can either go, I want to minimize response time. Okay, it's going to say, okay, fine. Which geographic area do you want to attempt that at? Do you want it to be the community wide, or do you have a specific first due or a battalion you want to see? Can I minimize my response time? And it's going to, then it asks you things like, which stations are eligible for consideration? Are there any units that are locked to a station? Now, do not move these units. You cannot move these units. Or you can't put an additional unit in a firehouse because there's nowhere to put it. You can accommodate for all those things. And then you can also weigh it by geographic coverage and actual response time. So you have lots of considerations to look at when you analyze something like that versus reach a performance target, which would be something completely different. That reaching a performance target, like I need to get to 90% response compliance on a 6-minute response goal. How many units would that take, right? How many more resources do I need? And then we'll figure out, we even take it one step further as to where the heck do they go when I get them? Like, where's the optimal placement of that? So I'm going to show you a couple examples. I actually have a couple of them sitting right here. Jack mentioned station sightings, right? So, and this is where we ran the optimizer on a question like that. They actually knew what land they had available to them. So, right, we can go in, okay, this is the plot of land you have. We're looking at 100. In this case, they were strictly looking at call volume, getting the call as fast as possible, and see what the impact would be with that particular location. And then it's going to give us the data to show us what that would look like if we added that firehouse. And then we'll be able to compare that visually to see this is before, and this is where we add that fire station in. It's down kind of in the southern part of the community. And then we can compare that to here when we look at this location. And in this case, they've changed the weighting a little bit to 75% to call volume and 25% to geographic coverage. And we can look at that comparison and we can see what that would look like. So the visualization is really powerful to be able to see what is the best choice, right? When we say decision support, this is exactly what we're talking about. And in this case, we presented 3 different options for the fire chief and the fire department to consider on what is the optimal place, what's the best bang for your buck as far as placing that resource to be able to do that. And this is another one. This was looking at actually an EMS agency where they were trying to figure out how many ambulances they would need to reach a particular time target. That was the second button we were looking at it a minute ago. So not only did we look in this case, this particular call type, they only needed one. And it's this blue dot over here, right there. But if they started looking at more significant call types to maintain 90% compliance, now we're talking 8 ambulances to be able to maintain compliance with that. So you have lots of different, when we talk about minimizing response time or reaching a performance target, that's what we're talking about. And that's what that outcome looks like.
Yeah, the optimizer feature is actually very powerful because, you as a human being are going to create experiments in your head that you think are going to answer the question for you. Hey, maybe if I put a station here or change this unit schedule. However, the optimizer feature can also give you answers to those same questions just using science and math behind the scenes. So I might say, hey, I'm going to take this unit and make it, I need a new ambulance. And that's kind of the scenario I'm going to run. And I'm going to add that to station 49. However, you can use the optimizer tool to say, well, give me a recommendation on what just pure science and math would say. It's as opposed to buying a brand new ambulance, if you were just change this one unit schedule from this to that, then that would answer the mail for that specific response criteria and actually would be cheaper for you. So the optimizer feature, like Eddie says, a wizard, it just says, hey, computer science, math, algorithms behind the scenes and their operations research, smarts behind it. Give me a recommendation on what I could do. Without me guessing, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to set up the parameters. I'm going to ask the question of the application. The application is going to give me potential answers and resolutions for that specific question. Very powerful.
Yep. Let's talk a little bit about what this thing takes to run, right? Like what kind of infrastructure is required to run this? And it's really, and Jamie's in the background. She can, if I get this wrong, Jamie, please chime in because she does this thing inside out. But we're basically running off of a known data connection. Oftentimes for Atom, it's a backup of the CAD data of some sort. Typically that data is backed up somewhere along the way. Or we can incorporate RMS data. And I'm excited now looking at Nearest coming online to plug into the backdoor Nearest as well to get a more standardized set of data. So and being cloud-based, once we get those connections, the DECN interface is it's an incredible, it's a back-end deal. Did we explain the DECN interface, Jamie?
Yeah, DECN interface is our platform that will be able to communicate with multiple data sources simultaneously. It's a really powerful way for us to access data wherever it lives for you, whether this is an RMS database that you've got on premise, whether it's within your CAD network or not, whether it's on cloud access and available across different APIs even. DECN interface can access all of that information. And then as a user, you actually have the option within your Atom application through that builder section that Eddie was showing that allows you to configure that data, decide how to draw different fields from the multiple data sources that you might be looking at, and ensure that any way that you want to build the picture about what's happening in your deployment and what type of future changes you're looking to make, you have the source data available at your fingertips. And I think especially for departments and agencies where you maybe don't have direct access all the time to your own CAD data, you sort of have these disparate areas where maybe the county is responsible for your CAD data. Maybe you're part of a larger group of agencies that share RMS data. This is a really flexible way for you to be able to get access to that independently and be able to do, some of your own analysis.
What's the experience from a fire department perspective? What is an experience like, Jamie, for an onboarding? Like how does the project manager interact with the fire department, and what are like those first couple of steps like?
Since this is a hosted application, we do have several stakeholder groups that we like to engage with at the fire department. And it really is dependent on what type of deployment you're going to have. So if we're going to host DECN interface for you, we're going to host Atom for you. We want to talk to your networking teams. We want to talk to your security folks. We want to talk to any of your data managers, anything that you have like that. Once we have an agreed upon architecture for how the application will be deployed, we provide any documentation that's required. We go through any security assessment that's needed. And then we are able to deploy the application to you. We do, because it's hosted on the cloud and it's available to you just over a normal browser. We do have all kinds of capabilities of restricting access for individual users. We make sure that all of that information is very secure. But the ease of access is definitely a priority. Most of this project from start to finish can be executed really quickly. It is just a little bit dependent on how easily available some of those teams that I mentioned can be for us.
And understanding, I guess, what the fire department wants to measure is usually the first question, I suppose.
In some ways, yeah, but also because this platform is so flexible, even if you don't have a good sense of what you want to measure to start, it's really straightforward to change that or update your configurations. Once you even have just a base version of the application, you can come back and add those new response criteria. You can update the type of reports and views that you want to create through new dashboards. So it can get started really fast.
And the flexibility, I guess, as long as the data is captured somewhere, whether it be in an RMS or a CAD, even things that you might not consider traditional. So
Yeah.
Like a lot of interest in mobile integrated health, community risk reduction, lots of those data sources, and even downrange. Like I'm a big fan of data beyond the air brake, that we're looking at operational metrics. If they're captured someplace, which I know that they will be in the new nearest world, that's things we can work with as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned many times water on fire. What's the time from call coming in to water actually hitting that fire? If you capture that data and someone's measuring those and putting it in a table somewhere, and we can get access to it, we can measure it and show it and display it for you.
Well, we measure all these things right up until we show up, and then we turn all the clocks off.
Right. Right.
So we're just getting ready to do the thing.
Right.
So that's when we could probably learn some stuff there.
Right. Eddie, I know accreditation is a big deal for a lot of agencies. Can you talk a little bit about how we support that process as just a corporation and how the tools themselves can help with the accreditation process?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Many of our clients are accredited departments. It's kind of a natural walk that we walk along, in that same pathway. We've got a document that actually runs a comparison of how Adam can help with the accreditation process. And the nice thing about our project managers is they have a ton of experience with accreditation. So if you're looking to, like you've got to get your hazard classes together and do all the things that you've got to do through that whole kind of curriculum, they've done it before, and we can certainly assist, particularly in onboarding a new client. If we know that accreditation is something that you might see in your 10-year future, then we can kind of keep that in mind as we build things for you and save you a bunch of time. A lot of those metrics, we know exactly how to get them. We know exactly how to present them. We just need to know that's something you want to do, and that can be woven into the application and the process as well as along the way. So, that's I know the couple times that I've had to struggle with the accreditation process myself. That is a huge benefit to have somebody that knows the way and has the ability to grab that data really quick, so that you can kind of get through the processes. We've even had one of our PMs go on site. I mean, he's highly aggressive, but he was, that department was nervous about the on-site visit, and so he went over there. And sure enough, I'm glad he did, because they did have a question that required his attention, and he was able to solve it from the back room right there on the site visit. So
yeah, Eddie's mentioned the project manager a couple of times. Something that's very unique about Deccan and the Deccan implementation and maintenance process is the project manager that's assigned to you will stay with you indefinitely. So the process of building the application, collecting the data, meeting with all those key stakeholders that Jamie talked about, you have a project manager that does all of that. And then once you get the application built and set up and ready to roll, that PM will stay with you indefinitely. So if someone who has an intimate relationship with you, your agency, we're not just providing software, we're actually providing a partnership. So if you have a specific question that you're really, really tough, that you need to look into and you need some help, just give your project manager a call. If you have, hey, I have a very important presentation coming up, can you help us create the presentation? We'll certainly help you do that. And if you actually want help delivering the presentation, because sometimes it helps to have a third-party neutral data analytics company say, hey, these are just the facts, take the emotion out of it, we can certainly help with that as well. So your project manager is a very integral part of this whole process and will stay with you indefinitely and will help you along the way.
Put somebody challenges your numbers. Well, let me challenge that math. Well, speak to the PhD,
right?
And let them explain it to you. To have that data scientist on your team is pretty powerful.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. Well, I guess we should. I know somebody's gonna probably ask, what about NERIS? What are you doing with that? I have been really paying close attention to that process the whole way. In fact, when I get off this call, in another few minutes, we'll be on another call about NERIS. So I am excited for that implementation, because it does a couple of things. It has a common data schema. So fire departments though we're all kind of measuring the same thing, we tend to want to measure it a little bit differently. And having that common data schema is going to be a big help. That helps us because everybody's kind of on the same page once we finally get everybody there. It's going to take a little while, but that's the ultimate goal. And B, they have a sandbox. So NERIS has a vendor sandbox, they call it, where you can plug into the NERIS platform, and you as the NERIS fire department can grant a third party like Deccan access to your data, and we have another place we can incorporate data from that is standardized. So from our perspective, it's going to make things a little bit easier, as far as some of the uniqueness that we always have to do for each client. It should kind of standardize things a little bit over time as we get used to it. So a key part of that is we just finished some work with the VCOS. We're working on a white paper on basically the beginnings, like the early steps of becoming NERIS compliant. We're wrapping that up as we speak. And I know from our experience at Deccan, we have fire departments that really struggle to locate GIS layers and, some of the ingredients that NERIS is going to require as well. So that's another thing we can help with because we're used to it. But that's something we're very accustomed to working with. So I think overall, it's going to be interesting over the next 5 or 10 years as the fire department transitions off of INFRS into NERIS. But I think it's certainly the juice is worth the squeeze, as they say. So on the long run, we'll be much more data aware, much more efficient. NERIS will have a dashboard in it. I've seen it. It's your standard kind of Esri type of dashboard, and that's going to be awesome. A lot of fire departments have never seen that before, and that'd be great. But this will, as you've seen with the dashboarding capabilities of this gives you a bunch more flexibility and customization on things that you would otherwise probably not be able to do. So we're excited about NERIS.
Well, great. Hey, Eddie, thanks for taking us through the application and going through all the different features and functions. And Jamie, thanks for joining us as well and going over the architecture and just being our backup in case we have technical questions. If you need any information about Deccan International, there's some information there on the screen. There's a URL code there. Our 2 email addresses, our web address. Please reach out to Deccan International. Jeff, I want to thank you for letting us present today, and we appreciate everyone's time, and thank you very much.
Great. I hope everybody enjoyed the presentation. It's always amazing to see what we can do with data and what data can do for us. And I really want to thank, Deccan for being a great partner of the IEFC and doing the things they do to help promote the fire service. Thanks everybody for joining us today. And again, the recording for this presentation today will be sent to the email address that you registered with. And be sure and share that with your friends and colleagues so everybody can take advantage of the learning that we took place today. So thank you very much again, Jamie, Jack, and Eddie. And again, we'll look forward to the next conference. And please, if you're at one of our conferences, please go up and talk to these folks and learn more about it in person and let them kind of walk through and show you how they can help you in your communities. Thanks again, and we'll see everybody for the next Learning Symposium seminar. Thank y'all.
Bye.